Welcome to the Wright Side of History, a podcast by the Wright County Historical Society. I am Ember Wallenberg, one of the research and reference librarians here, and today I'm going to be talking with Marissa Campanaro, archivist and collections, all about the archival process.
Thanks for having me.
Yeah. So usually when people think about archival and collections, they think about donating items. Mm-hmm. So what kind of items do we take?
So for us, it is pretty much any items with a strong connection to Wright County. Our mission is highlighting the residents and community here. So really any objects and photographs, family papers that reflect that is really what our collecting policy goes by. So that whether that is photographs, we have maps of the county, and then different type of family objects also that, again, have that really strong connection.
All right. So if somebody comes in, they talk to you, and you're like, yes, absolutely, we want this item, what does that process look like?
Yeah, so we, any archive and objects collection has a deed of gift with it. So that is transferring ownership from the individual to the historical society. So that you have to start with that paperwork. Anything that comes into this building as a donation needs paperwork attached to it. And so I had the donor fill that out, have a description with it, and then as well as getting some information about the item, so background. The provenance pretty much is really important as well, because then that really gives the item a story. Mm-hmm. And then we can use that for exhibits, social media, things like that. So the deed of gift is where I would start. And then depending on what the item is, you go into like processing it. Sometimes it's a large group of family papers and you have to go through and make sure everything is coherent and there's order to it. So that's kind of where I'd start, but for sure the deed of gift, and then processing and cataloging, so then we can make it accessible to our patrons via our database.
All right. So once it's out of their hands, back in the back rooms, the archives, our collections area, if somebody wants to see that item or that paperwork or that photo again, what would that kind of look like?
Yeah, so pretty much any objects that someone donates, others are able to see. So once I or a volunteer catalogs the item or the collection, that goes into our database, and then people can reach out to me saying, hey, I donated this item, can I see it again? Or a family member knows of someone who donated an item and they would like to also see it. So they would either give me the collection number if they're going based off of the website. So our database, every collection has a session number attached to it. And I assign those when I'm processing and putting it into the database. And so if someone reaches out via online, they'll say, hey, this is the accession number I want. And then I can go into the archives or the collections and find that object or item. And then, or they can just give me the donor's name if they know who donated it, and I can pull it up that way as well, because we keep all of our deed of gifts. And so if for some reason it is not located or doesn't have a location assigned to it, then I can go based off of that, and then kind of, it's a little bit more digging that way, but we can definitely still see it. The only time that someone cannot see an item is if a donor puts a restriction to it. So if there's information on there that they don't want people seeing for so many years, that's on the deed of gift that people can put a restriction or a special, it's almost like a special collection type way of the paperwork, but restrictions will be if there's sensitive information.
I see.
Then that's the only time that I cannot have to say, no, we cannot like show something for so many years.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So if something comes in and there might be some damage to an item, or maybe something, God forbid, happens in the back and one of the items get damaged, what is kind of the process of either repairing that, or like what do you do for that?
Yeah, so that's also, so that's conservation as well of items. So we take note of everything also. So when we're cataloging, there's a portion of our database catalog that has a condition report. So we take condition reports of everything that come in and see this is how they were when we received them. And then if something, we were to ever loan something out, you would do another condition report to say this is how it is when it's leaving. And same with when things go on exhibit, because if something goes on exhibit and we have a specific way that it was, like a specific condition it was in, and then whenever things are taken off of exhibit, we also do a condition report. We can see if there was any change, or if it was harmed in some way. Light is not a great thing for archives and art, paper and objects. We have special lighting in our gallery, so that should not be what's doing it. But if the condition is drastically different, then we're able to kind of see what happened. But condition reports are really helpful. So if something's damaged, again, we kind of know what the condition was. We can kind of pinpoint what happened, and then we can kind of go from there. I am not trained in actually like conserving anything. There are like conservation office or groups that we can reach out to if need be. So if like something really broke in the object collection, we could reach out to someone who is professionally trained in treating them. Yeah.
With certain objects, I know back in like some of the collection processing area, we have a freezer. What would be some of the items that would have special preparatory like that before they actually end up going into the archives or the collections?
Yeah, good eye that we have that freezer. So a lot of places have cold storage to begin with, but that is a special type of cold storage that say for paper, for like if someone's bringing something into me and there's mold on it, or if there's a heavy scent of cigarette smoke, depending on if it was someone's house who smoked cigarettes, that paper really likes to retain that type of scent. And so that's not something you want to put in with a lot of other objects, because then it's going to off-gas and affect things near it. So we can put photographs into the freezer in a plastic bag. You make a note of when it goes in, you take it out for 24 hours, and then you put it back in for another week or so, until the scent is gone. Mold is very concerning for really anything. But if it's on clothing, we will put it in the freezer. Again, we wrap them, we put them, like we protect the objects and put them in the freezer for a specific amount of time, to stop the growth of potential mold, because again, that spreads once it's in the collection, but you can kill it with cold.
That's really interesting.
Yeah.
So with our processes here, we're one institution. How does what we do here how is it kind of similar or different than what other places do?
Yeah. So for us, pretty much the process, the deed of gift, that is standard. That is a standard practice for museums. Everything has to have paperwork. So we're similar in that aspect. But also what makes us a little different is how we can take items in. So if someone comes in and I'm not here, as we know, we can't take everything in unless I've talked to the person ahead of time and I let you guys know, like, hey, this person's coming in. I won't be working this Saturday, but this is when they're coming in. Other organizations differ in that sense. Not all of them, but some that I've known, where anybody can take in an item, and then even if for them it's usually a collections manager, even if they're not there, and then the collections manager goes through every single thing, and if if they don't want something or if they can't take something in, then they have to contact the donor to come pick it up. And that's a little risky.
Yeah.
Because sometimes people won't come back to pick up their objects. So
I see.
We kind of cut that out just because since I'm taking things in, then we try to kind of streamline it here at Wright County, that I'm really the one who makes that decision, and I try to make that decision right then and there, unless someone emails me a photo, if that's another way. So if people can email me photos of things if they're potentially wanting to donate them, that way I can kind of see it and understand it before they bring it in.
Yeah.
But that is something that I've noticed we've differed in, that not just anyone can take in objects and then I review them later. We also, other people can kind of differ in the way that they do their databases and how they do their cataloging. And that's kind of, I will say that can kind of be up to the individual themselves, like the individual archivist or collections manager or curator. But we use collective access for our database. So it's really great for object collections. But some places don't like it because it's not great for archives. And so like papers and collections. And so that's also how we can differ in other organizations, is how their platform that they put on for a database.
Okay.
But most of the time, everybody is similar in that it is taken in via paperwork, and then everybody processes in catalogs, because if not, you're not making it accessible to your patrons. And so those ways, but then the nitty gritty of it can change based off of different organizations.
I see.
Yeah.
Broad strokes similar, but getting down to the details,
Yes.
things differ there.
Exactly.
Okay, yeah. So within your job specifically here, what would you say is the most and least challenging parts of archives and collections?
That's a good question. So the least and most challenging. Okay, so the least challenging usually for me is the cataloging. I like cataloging. I like going through and making sure that we have everything accessible to our patrons. The most challenging for me is making sure, first of all, we're saying yes to the correct things, and also making sure that we don't have a lot of space.
Yeah.
Right? So that is definitely the most challenging aspect of my job, is really having to be curt with what I'm taking in and what I'm not taking in. Because if I take something in that has, yes, a story, and is relevant to Wright County, but then that is taking up space for potential other objects that are very connected or really have a story, and we don't have any of them in our collection to begin with. So we have, speaking of our object collection, for an example, we have 6 pump organs.
Yeah.
That's a lot of pump organs that take up a lot of space. And so if I were to say, just for example, I would not, but take another pump organ that might have a little bit more, that's taking up even more space for, say, something we don't have any of.
Yeah.
And so that's a challenging aspect as well. And then also just knowing what is in the collections. So if not everything had a catalog record at one point, that means it's here, but we don't know it's here.
Yeah.
So going through and creating an inventory to make sure that we know what's here, so that we can help others know what's here as well.
Yeah. Okay. Interesting. Within our archives and collections, do you have anything that you particularly like a favorite item or photo that you have seen or dealt with?
That's a good question as well. So for our collection, we have commissioner reports, so like meeting minutes, because we are also a repository for the county government. So we have things that they donated in large clusters. So marriage licenses, property tax records up until 1990, and then we also have the commissioner books. So, but one of those commissioner books is the oldest object in the archive, and so it's 1859. And so they're really interesting to kind of read and kind of get some information from.
Wow, yeah.
Yeah, and so just kind of see how things worked, the naming of schools or the funding for schools that came about.
Yeah, because that's a year after Minnesota became a state. That's way back there.
Yeah, so it's definitely one of my favorite items to look at. And so that would probably be one of my favorite things. But then in the object collection, it's so different because obviously we have so many different things.
Oh, yeah.
But I think for that one, if I had to choose for the object collection, we have some like older toys that induce nostalgia for me, but also just to kind of see like what type of toys were still out there and like how many of them are wooden, because I mean there were a ton of wooden toys. I grew up with wooden toys, and so that's kind of fun to look at the different toys that people had, or even if a family made the toys. That's also really cool. The stories behind them really get me.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So within that scope of archives and collections, what would you say would be the most fun and the most boring part of the job? Different than the challenge,
right?
But still.
Yeah, so I would probably say a boring aspect can be cataloging. As much as I do like it, it's tedious, it takes a while, and it kind of feels like it's never ending. I would say so every archive, and if you don't, I would love to know their secret, but most archives have backlogs.
Yes.
So I know we have backlogs for left from prior to when I was here, which is fine because again, there's so many things that we're doing that's not always the first and foremost. Like obviously we want to get it cataloged as fast as we can, but sometimes it sits for a little bit, and so I would love to not have a backlog, but it is a boring process to get through.
Yeah.
So that's probably, I'll start with the boring one, but then for the fun, I love talking with donors. I do really like getting their stories. Sometimes, and this is everywhere, donors just want to tell you their story.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
And so, I mean, you've been there when people have come in and they're just telling me their whole life story, which, hey, I love it because that is bits of information I wouldn't have had otherwise.
Yes.
And then we can add it to the background of the object, instead of just saying this was made in Buffalo, but if someone gives us a really deep background, we can say this person's grandmother made this for the granddaughter, like things like that.
Yeah.
So
it's always nice to have a story behind it. It really humanizes
exactly
the object or the photo or the paperwork or whatever.
Yes, exactly. So I love talking to donors, and I will say, and I'm sure some people have heard this before, but there's always been a saying that archivists just like to be in a basement.
Yeah.
And though that can be true, sometimes people were introverts. I'm an introvert. Not everybody's introverted. I won't say that. I won't do a gross generalization. But I am an introverted person, but I still like talking to the people. And so that's it's fun here because we are open to the public. Not everyone makes appointments to see me to bring things in. So that kind of makes every day a little different then too, which makes it fun.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Every day is a new thing, a new story.
Yes. Different questions coming in, which makes it fun because then that helps it not become stagnant and a little boring.
Yes. Yeah, very much so. Yeah. So within your role here, you have various projects that you're doing in archives, collections, Some of them also have volunteers or interns associated with them. Is there anything you'd like to talk about that, either current or future projects, or anything you'd like to know, let people know with volunteering?
Yeah, so some of our current projects that we have going on right now, I do have an intern who is working on digitizing oral histories that are on cassette tapes from the 70s. That is part of like our push for digital preservation here. So obviously cassette tapes, we can still play cassette tapes, but the integrity of that tape fades through time.
Yeah.
So we want to make sure that we have digital versions of them. And so, I mean, I'm not I'd be shocked if a tape player becomes completely obsolete.
Yeah.
But still, like, the reel itself can fade, and we don't want to be able to not then have access to what's on that tape.
Absolutely.
So I have an intern who is digitizing those and making transcripts so that we can put them online for people to access and be able to listen to, which is fun because I've had people who have reached out to me saying that they know people who were interviewed during that time and asking if we have a copy of the tape yet. So that's kind of helpful for us. So that is part one project. We also have a committee on our board for exhibits and collections. And so a few of my board members who are on that committee come in and catalog objects for me. So the backlog of whether it be high school Letterman jackets or photos, framed photos, things like that. So the larger objects that are helping me catalog those, just to help assist to make sure that they're getting properly cataloged and into the database on a good time frame, I should say. So we have those going on, but another project that I'm hoping to start working on is an inventory of the archive. And so someone going through, for collections in the archive, they are based, they can be in a box. Well, they're all in a box, but then so there's box level, and then there's folder level, and then there's item levels. So the boxes is just the broad, I'm just going to take for example, a family's collection. So like family's papers. So that's one collection in the box, but then the folders give the information of what is in each folder. So that can be letters, that could be another folder, it could be photographs, another letter could be let's say like a deed to someone's house or something like that. So that's all in the box. So my hope for the inventory is that right now we are just going through box and folder levels of the archive to know what is in each of the boxes. For later, pretty much in preparation for a much larger project, which is inventorying item level. To make sure that everything is properly cataloged and accessible. So that's a project.
Yes.
Has a massive undertaking, and as much as I would love to do it myself, I don't have the time.
Yeah.
So that would be training someone to help me with that. And then we always have other projects that we can kind of work on, or things that come up that we think could be a good project. So we have our photo collection, and as you know, it's helpful, but there are parts of it that we think could be better.
Yes.
And so the index that goes with it, there might be missing descriptions or missing photos or yeah. So my other hope for a project is having a couple individuals, because we have quite a number of photos in that collection, working and just going through and starting off by saying this photo might be a digital version of it, but there's no physical version of it. Or the opposite. We have a description, but the photo's not there. So where's the photo? So that is going to be another project that, again, we would have to train people on, have them have a copy of the collection and the index so that they're not working off the originals. But that would just really help streamline things for the research librarians when
Yes.
people come in, us when we're working on it for social media. And so, again, massive projects.
Yep.
But as of right now, we're just figuring out the nitty gritty, and I'm sure by the time that people start listening to this podcast, we'll have a better idea of what we'd like to do, because it would be great if people reached out to want to do the projects. We're just trying to figure out the details that go into it. So those are, I would say, our big future projects that are coming out that I will need help with.
Yeah. If somebody wanted to reach out to either help with one of these projects potentially, or to just kind of volunteer in general,
yeah,
where would they go to reach out to you?
Yeah, so they can go, they can reach out to me via email. That's always my kind of go-to. It's not that I don't like calls, but emails help me with my brain remembering who's reaching out and what they're reaching out for. So my email is archivist@wrighthistory.org. So people can reach out to that. And if it's about these specific projects, let me know. If it's something else, so like my intern had reached out to me just saying, this is what I'm interested in, this is what I have skills for. And then we kind of built that project to cater her.
Oh, yeah.
And so she's in school right now for this. So part of me and remembering what it was like to have internships in school, I didn't want to give her a fake project. This is something that she can take back and show professors, like a physical, we are actually using this information here.
Yeah.
And so if someone is in school and wants to do an internship, we can cater it to help them get the experience. But yeah, even just showing what your skills are and what it is they'd like to do. We do have our outreach coordinator who does work with volunteers, but usually if it's my project, I'll let him know someone wants to volunteer.
Yeah.
But if it's specifically for something in my department, they can reach out to me and ask. So.
Okay. Very cool.
Yeah.
So one of the biggest kind of modern aspects of the archive and collections, I mean, mostly kind of with the archives, is digitization. That's been a really big thing, in the field, and it's just getting more and more. Can you tell me about some of the challenges and benefits of digitization within our institution, kind of more broadly within your field and job?
Yeah. So for us, yes, so digitization is great. I do, it's definitely, like you're saying, it's pretty much the next step in all archives. I mean, that doesn't go to say that paper is obsolete. Obviously, we still have paper. But there are things like born digital objects, or born digital items, I should say. So a photograph coming straight from a SIM card, like it's not a photograph that someone scanned and gave to me. That is a born digital item. Born digital items can also be even just documents that someone is sending me the form file to. That's a born digital item. So I will put out that, so digitization does not mean preservation.
Yeah.
They do not go hand in hand. I think that is kind of a myth that a lot of people believe, because they just say, oh, just scan it and it'll be fine.
That's certainly one I believed before I started working here, for sure.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, and I mean, I had that same thought before I even went into this field or went to school for it. So, and it can go different ways. So preservation does not mean digitization. Like they're not equal to each other. But for digitization specifically, once you digitize something, you have to care for that file. Mm-hmm. So it does not just go, you don't just digitize it and forget about it. because things can become corrupt, as we've known. I'm sure if someone goes onto their flash drive and tries opening something, it says it's corrupted or the data isn't there. And so for us, building our digital preservation, I don't want to say department, it's not a department, but our digital preservation is something that takes time for an organization.
Yeah.
It costs money, it costs space.
Yes.
There's still storage that you need to, so that's another aspect of space that we need to keep in mind. And so that is something that I've been working on. I've been working on a lot of trainings, researching on how can we build this up. Because another thing I will say, we don't take just scans of photos for this purpose. So
Yeah.
if someone wants to donate their just a digital copy of their scan, meaning I take a scan of it and give it back to them, I don't do that mainly for the reason of if something ever happened to that file, I don't have ownership of the original to be able to take another scan of it. So if we're digitizing something in our own collection, which I have done and I'm trying to build like digital exhibits for, so say a letter, if I want to digitize a collection of letters from a soldier, and something happens to that file, it's fine because I have the originals. I can go back and just make another scan of it. But if someone is giving just a digital donation, as I like to call it, we don't have ownership of the original. So if something happens, we have to find it again, see if we can get a scan, and at that point, there's a possibility that someone donates the original elsewhere.
Oh.
So that is then a copyright issue because who has ownership, right?
I see.
And so I will just put that out there for a donation. I mean, obviously exceptions can be made, but I'm trying to build something for us here at Wright County so that we can do that if necessary, but also too, we do like the originals of things. So for digitization for us, it is ongoing.
Yes.
It's forever an ongoing thing. Digitization also is very helpful for organizations if you have a really fragile object.
Yeah.
So, or I shouldn't say object, but a very fragile book or say the commissioner's books. You don't want someone always looking through the physical book because that can add wear and tear. Mm-hmm. You can digitize it. But you did also ask about like a more broad aspect of digitizing, and the Minnesota Digital Library is something that is someone who we have partnered with and have gotten grants for, so they scan things for us. So two of our projects, I'll start with the first one, but our first one was images of rural schoolhouses.
Yeah.
So we sent 75 photos to them and then 2 maps, and they scanned them for us at high resolution, and then those images went onto their website so that people can find them. But that helps with accessibility because then anybody who's searching, something might come up on the Minnesota Digital Library page, they see that we donated it, and then they can reach out to us. So we actually just had someone reach out from Pennsylvania who saw a photo on MDL, and he knew some of the students who were in the photo. So yeah, so things like that if we don't digitize and we don't get it out there, people don't know what we have in our collection. But it's a fine line of making sure that not everything's digital, because again, you then have to care for the files and making sure that they don't lose data throughout time or go corrupt or things like that. Mm-hmm. But it does help with accessibility for people who are not in the state or even in town. And so MDL is really helpful in building that for people, and then we get the scans. But again, now I have the scans to take care of, to make sure of. But digitizing is a fun thing in our field, and for an organization like us where we had nothing when I started, like no digital, or I should say very few digital items, it's a challenge but also fun to kind of build something so that we can continue to digitize and do it correctly so that future generations have access to it, but also that we're not doing it and then it kind of falls apart if not cared for properly.
Yeah, so, absolutely.
It's probably a very roundabout way of answering that question. I could talk about digitizing a lot, but it's something that needs to happen in archives, and I always love seeing when other smaller organizations are trying to figure out how to do it for themselves, because they realize that you can't not be in the digital age.
Yes.
No?
Yeah.
So, it's a fun thing within this field.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. So.
Very fascinating.
Yeah.
So, do you see the archival process changing at all in the future here at Wright County Historical Society or more broadly?
Yeah. So I think for the most part, for physical items, I do see it staying the same. Just kind of how that process goes. But digital items, again, will become a challenge. If there's not the correct toolkits in place for any organization, or policies. Falling back on policies for us is very helpful. But I would say digital items are definitely going to be, and making sure that you can preserve them is going to continue to be, because also you need to be able to choose wisely of what you're digitizing, because you have to think about what is going to become obsolete. So if you have things on reels, at what point are you going to be able to find something that plays a reel? Flash drives, USBs, external hard drives, those aren't too concerning because we'll have access to computers will continue to have ports in them or something that you'll be able to, hopefully, that's my thought. I should say that. Hopefully they continue. But they also, I think, like floppy disks.
Yes.
There's very few floppy disks that you can, CD players even are becoming more and more, like, and I mean for a computer. So like being able to pull something off from a CD onto a computer. I know for my computer, I have something that I have to plug an external player. And so that's, I think, for archives, especially going into this digital, even more digital age now, is making sure what we're getting is taken from things that will eventually become obsolete. And then I think also too, and I love to say it, but AI is going to be a fun thing for us. And I think for any museum and any archive, it is going to play a very critical role in how people view history.
Yes.
I think you and I have even had this conversation before where we're seeing people posting on Facebook or on social media photos that they're saying are historic, or they're colorizing them with AI, which is great, but also at the same time, is it just made with AI, or was it actually made, or is it adding things in, which then people are taking as fact?
Yeah.
So I think that's also, it can be a tool for us, but it can also, if not used correctly, it could hurt the way people perceive history and view history, and what the integrity of it, I guess, to say as well.
Oh yeah, I mean, it's its own emerging thing within the last couple of years. There's a lot of questions about generative AI versus other AI tools and how that's going to be used, how that's going to be perceived. It's definitely, so it's a big thing, and I think it's going to continue to be.
Yeah, and I'm definitely not saying that people should be afraid of it, but I think just making sure that we all educate ourselves to make sure, especially as organizations of history, that it will it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shapes and plays out in future years, especially in the museum and historical society communities.
Yes.
How are people using it? How are people, are they straying away from it a lot more, or are people using it to help them with their exhibits or with their collections, things like that. So
yeah. And I mean, we've already seen that to an extent in some institutions, whether it's tools in the back end with certain things or with exhibits and stuff. And there's been definitely a certain amount of public backlash for certain things with generative AI. I mean, this could be its own episode.
It really could, honestly. I mean, but archives are, and I'll speak right now mainly about archives, so I was trained in that, but it's an ever-changing thing. I mean, I've been in this profession for 5 years now, so just the amount that it's changed in 5 years is
I bet
a lot. And I think too, making sure that archives and the archival process, since that's specifically what you asked, the process of it, making sure that people change with it, like that we're not afraid of the change, and how do we take this change and this future change, I should say, and use it still to do what we're meant to do, which is sharing history and collecting and preserving history. Because we don't want to say no to digital objects if you're afraid of the digital preservation of it, because then we're losing out on our residents' history or our community's history. And so it's fun, and
certainly
the change, and I can only wait to see what the change is going to be in the next 5 years, and how that affects us. So but really, digital just preservation and digital archiving could be its own thing, because we could talk on that for a long time.
Oh yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah. A lot of this is so much more complicated and nuanced than I think.
It is, but the whole process itself of taking an item in, cataloging it, making sure it's accessible to, that will stay the same. Like that, yeah. If that changes, I'm concerned. Like why would that change? So that'll continue to stay the same. But everything else will kind of shape differently, and I'm excited to see how it kind of shapes out in the next 5-10 years.
Oh yeah, it'll be very, very interesting to see how technology and people and processes and just everything all come together for it.
Exactly.
You know? All right. So you are more of a trained archivist. You came into this collections role kind of later. Mm-hmm. If somebody wanted to get into archival work or the field in general, what would you recommend?
Yeah. So I'll start with the archives, since I can speak on that personally. It does not matter what your undergraduate is in. I'll be honest on that. If it's in history, that's helpful, but you don't have to have a history degree in order to go into this field. So I went and got my master's in library and information studies with a concentration in archival management. So that was my whole track. And it's called an MLIS, that is very helpful then to open doors into the field of, and again, this is how I went into it. It's very helpful when applying for jobs because you have that specific type of degree. Mm-hmm. It's not everywhere, but a very large amount of people, you need to have a degree in that sense in order to work in the field.
Yeah.
And so there are some places that you don't need to because you can learn it. But a large portion you do need at least some type of information studies, and not information studies, but information studies degree, for lack of a better term. But also there is museum studies degrees that people can have, which again would help them work in an archive. So that could be like a curator if you're wanting to work more specifically with objects and exhibits. That could be more of an art, a curator. Collections managers, that's a whole term, and that's a field of you're what it is, right? It's the managing of collections. I just don't go by that because I was like I said, trained as an archivist. I went to school for that, and I know it the best. And so that starting with that education is helpful because then you're learning the theories and you're learning the practice of working in a museum, working in an archive.
Yeah.
A big thing too would be, and I always say this for people, internships or volunteering, again, to get the experience of it. I know you and I have talked about how this job is very helpful for what you want to go into.
Yeah.
Because you're getting the experience.
Yeah, absolutely.
And so I think you learn this field by doing.
Yeah.
And so finding areas and organizations to help and volunteer or intern at is really beneficial for this field, because again, you're getting that hands-on experience that you need. If you're not, you can cater it to kind of figure out what do you need to learn.
Yes. Yeah.
So and I do know that sometimes people not always a fan of like internships or volunteering because it's not the job, right?
Yeah.
But you're still getting that experience that to be able to take with you to when you apply for somewhere else. You can say, I worked here and I did this, is super helpful. And so when I was in school, I did multiple internships, but then I also worked at multiple areas to make sure I was getting a well-rounded experience to what I wanted to do. And then there's also grants that you can, if someone's hiring for grant work. Now that's not a permanent position. It's only for a certain number of months, usually a year at the lower end. But that also helps you get the experience. It is part of a job, but also you're hired on to do a specific job. Now those can also be in the field of archives, or I should say just in the field in general. There are a lot of different people who their sole job is to do one thing. So the difference between my job is I'm aware of many hats. Yeah. Right? And so you do this for 10% of your time. You do this for 20%, something else for 20% of your time. There are organizations where processing collections that come in, that's their only job. They only process. And then the collection, someone else is a cataloging archivist or cataloging just in general. So then their job is to catalog.
I see.
Digital metadata or digital collections, that's another person's job. So instead of doing it like me, where I'm aware of many hats and I do everything, if you want to do something, say, a little bit more specific. So I was a grant worker, and I was a imaging archivist. So I digitized collections. So I got to I was very good and very well-rounded for digitizing and what that entailed. So people can kind of go into these different paths. If they want to only do this, they can look for jobs that are only that.
Oh, yeah.
But it also makes it a lot more fun if you do everything.
Something for everybody.
Yes. And there's a term that we learned in school, a name for people who are like me, and I'm the only one doing it. They're the lone arranger.
Lone arranger?
Yes.
Oh my god.
Yes. So,
It's so bad.
It's terrible. It's almost as bad as it depends. Like, that's just because every archivist knows. It depends.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much for sitting down and talking with me, Marissa.
Yes.
I really appreciate it.
Yes, thank you for having me. Hopefully I shared a little bit more of what we take in, or if people have questions, they can always reach out and ask. That's all I ever say. If you have questions for me, just let me know.
Yeah, absolutely.
So,
thank you so much for listening. Please visit our website at wrighthistory.org and come visit us in person just off Highway 25. We're open Tuesdays through Fridays, 8 to 4:30, and Saturdays, 9 to 3.